Welcome to Musicians versus the World, the podcast where we explore aspects of music and musician life that may not have been covered in music school. I am your host, Christine Smith, and today we are talking with singer-songwriter Kelly Monrow. Now, Kelly is a singer-songwriter and actress from Austin, Texas. She started her on-screen career modeling and acting in commercials and rose to prominence through her acting roles in hit shows like Billions, Lucifer, and American Crime Story. As a true performer and a genuine songwriter, Kelly is keen on sharing her perspective by telling passionate, sometimes personal stories that both inspire others and help her heal as a person. As a creative, Kelly thinks it's important to keep a fire burning at all times, whether it's through film, singing, songwriting, or photography. Picking one lane as an artist is not Kelly's philosophy. Kelly wants to encourage everyone to defy societal standards and challenge their comfort zones. Months within launching her career, the determined musician had already amassed more than 2.5 million streams and made her performance debut at South by Southwest in Austin. And she is joining us today from Paris. So Kelly Monrow, thank you so much for being here and welcome to Musicians versus the World.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. What an intro.
Well, what a career you've had. Now, I know most people do some sort of pivot mid-career, but I have not met many that have decided to go into music and in the middle of their career. What on earth made you decide to go through this massive change?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, the answer simply is the pandemic. I think that was a very, very earth-shattering, shaking the ground. It was a very pivotal time for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And, of course, you get a lot of satisfaction from doing TV and film projects. And, of course, when that dissipates and it completely halts, you're left with just yourself and the idea that, we are not immortal. We are not, going to live forever. And you begin to question everything. And I think that was a really pivotal point for me. I was single at the time, didn't even have a dog, wasn't living with anybody. And, I don't know if a lot of people know this, but I lived in New York, in Soho, in a studio by myself. I don't know if people remember, but when the looting was happening and the fires and the guns and that was right in the middle of kind of the epicenter of catastrophe, really. And all of the trauma that was happening in the country, I was right in the middle of it. So this really kind of urged me to stop and think okay, what are the tools, what are the instruments that I have right now? And, my mom always taught me to make lemonade out of lemons, right? And, we all think we're optimistic until we're actually put in the spot to be optimistic.
Right.
And when, the rubber really meets the road, it was what the hell am I going to do? And I just remember I was literally in my apartment. I was home alone. And if you want the real story, I had my friend had given me these chocolate mushrooms, chocolate bars. And I was maybe I'll just eat a little bit. I don't know. This was at the time where you're just you either drink wine or you just cry or you do nothing. So I kind of had this really beautiful, very subtle, experience with psilocybin. And I know it's a very controversial thing, but a lot more people are talking about it. But it really opened up my heart and it made me realize wow, we have so many tools and instruments within us that we never use, we never tap into. And anything is possible. And I can either create art out of the pain in my heart, or I can choose to just go down this path of despair and sadness and of course that's a rolling stone, right? It keeps going and going and going and faster, and you pick up more energy around it. So I had this beautiful moment and I realized wow, my voice is something that everybody loves, my speaking voice, and I've never really explored my singing voice. And my brother was a singer, and I looked across the room one night and I remember being so sad, but of course this experience I just started to tell you about, I saw this guitar. Never played the guitar in my life. Went and picked up the guitar and I just started strumming it. And I just literally started singing. And what's really interesting is since I was probably 10 years old, I've got stacks of journals that I've kept over the years of just writing. And I went and opened up some of these journals that night, and I realized, wow, this is all poetry. This is all, half of the entries rhymed, and I didn't even realize it. And so I just kind of started, strumming the guitar and singing these journal entries. And that was how I ended up writing my first song.
Really? From these journal entries? Just you and a guitar in the middle of New York City.
Yeah. It was really quite bizarre. And people are like, I can't even comprehend that, but that's the story. I mean, I don't know. I'm sure you can relate. Like during the pandemic, it was like, everyone I think had one troubling moment or a come to Jesus moment or whatever you want to call it, where you're like, okay, I have two options right now. I can either freak out or I can try to make lemonade out of lemons, right?
Right. That's true. And yours turned into a very productive and it sounds like it was almost cathartic for you to be able to tap into these old feelings from years before.
Oh, I think music has been the most healing channel that I've ever experienced in my life. I'm forever grateful to music. And now that I have a deep connection to it and the process of making it, it's something that will never leave me now. It's something that I will always come through and back to time and time again.
Yeah. Now, there is a difference, however. Many people picked up the guitar during the pandemic or the piano or something. Not many decided to turn it into a professional career. How do you get from this amazing, beautiful experience to now performing at South by Southwest and all of these other things that you're doing?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I was in a music video when I was, I think I was like 18. And it was probably a week and a half after I picked up the guitar for that first time. This is how I always say, pay attention to signs, because I feel like the universe always gets us direction and we just don't listen. And so I believe in synchronicity. Things start to happen. And if we really listen and we get in our hearts and we pay attention, we can always figure it out. But it was probably not even 2 weeks after I picked up the guitar for the first time. It was Dean Stan's birthday. He's one of the guys who started Lone Star, a country music group. I don't know if you know, but
yeah.
Bunch of hit songs from the 90s. It was his birthday. I pick up the phone. I say, hey, Dino, happy birthday. Haven't talked to you in a good while, and we've always stayed in touch. And I said, you're not going to believe this, but I kind of had this like revelation the other night, and I'm playing around on the guitar, and well, I feel like I might need to come to Nashville and make a song. And I was kind of kidding.
Right.
But I kind of deep down knew exactly what I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
And he did the knee slapper. He's like, well, hell yeah, come on down whenever you're ready. We'll be here for you, But the interesting, amazing part is about it was probably a month and a half later when the bars lifted and you could fly again. Because I thought about driving, but I booked a ticket. It was $80 from New York to B&A. I landed, he picked me up, we went straight to the studio, I met with all of his band. We wrote my first song in the studio that night, which is Wide Open, which today has about 600,000 streams.
Wow.
And that was the beginning. And that was I took it in my journal, because I said, I have no idea what I'm doing, I don't know how to write a song. And he said, well, what have you been doing at home? And I said, well, I've just been opening up these journals, looking through them and reading them. And he said, well, flip to one. And I said, okay. And I said, oh, this was actually a really beautiful song that I actually wrote to my relationship with God when I was going through a really hard time. And I read it to him, and he got on the piano and he said, verbatim, tell me the lyrics. And we wrote out the lyrics verbatim what was on the page.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah. So I think again, people are like, well, it's not always that sweet. It's not always that, synchronistic. It's not always whatever. But I really believe when we pay attention to a gift that's in our heart that we're supposed to share with people, I think there's a lot of synchronicity that happens. I think there's a lot of common denominators that start to fall together. Mm-hmm. And I think all we have to do is say yes.
That's true.
I think that's it.
Yeah. Well, and you had a couple of things going for you that is a real testament to your tenacity and your talents, was that you had this creative streak, either, through acting and through your poetry, and all of you have that creativity in you, so that when the music came to you, you were prepared really to take that just into another genre or another outlet. Also, you knew people, which is huge, but you made an effort to keep in touch with people and building relationships, which I think is a huge part of building your career as a musician, or any career, is keeping those relationships. And you were so smart to keep those. And then, like you said, say yes and go for it. I think all of those things really show how it wasn't just luck, that there were a lot of things that you did in preparation, so that when these things fell into place, you were ready for it.
Oh, I could not agree more. I've been telling people, if you think for 1 second that I've had luck in music, or that it's only taken me 2 years to get where I'm at, I would say you're crazy, because it's, my mom always used to say overnight success takes 15 years. And,
She's very wise, your mom.
Yeah. I mean, I've been acting and at it, in the TV and film world for 16 years now. And every audition, every time I was on set, every project that I filmed that I thought was going to roll out and be my hit role, that didn't happen. All of those things have prepared me, staying in character, getting into character, falling out of character, falling in love with the character. All of it has prepared me to be able to not only record, because that's a totally different thing, recording versus being on stage. But, when I step on stage as Kelly Monroe, the reason I changed my name is because it is a side of me. It's a character that I play, because it allows me to freely sing from my heart with no inhibition. And that's just a playful side that I allow to come out. But she didn't just come out of anywhere. I mean, it's taken me a really long time to build that stamina and build that character, if you will,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely, it does. So you had your first song, and now it's been a massive success. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
But that's writing the song's only part of it. Then you have to record, and you have to do these albums. Walk me through your creative process in your new music, things that you're working on.
So I get a lot of inspiration usually in the heat. And I know that sounds weird, but at a steam room or a sauna or on the beach or on a really hot day, for some reason, when I start sweating and it's coming out of my pores.
Well, you're from Texas, so.
It must be the way I was born in a generation. But I get a lot of inspiration in the heat, and I'll start writing. Also, when I'm on the train, like on the metro system here in Paris, or I take the train in New York. For some reason, people watching and seeing all walks of life from all parts of the world is just super inspiring. And it's part of the reason I came to Paris, because I love being in Europe, because it's such a melting pot of the world. And, and also you can record here for much cheaper. I highly suggest it. That would be one of my tips for people. But super inspiring on the train and or in hot environments. It sounds bizarre, but the lyrics usually I'll loop a melody and I'll play something. And this is the thing. I think this is really important for people to remember. I'm not a good guitar player. I mean, I try, but it's not like I've been playing instruments my whole life. So again, I think it's an opportunistic thing, right? I will put on a track that's like a meditative song. Just the piano. You can Google spa piano or whatever, meditative study piano, and I'll just loop it, and I'll just write songs that my heart feels like. I'll just write words, and those turn obviously into songs. But then I'll go home and I'll go back and listen to what I wrote, and then I'll call my producer, who I met in Nashville after I worked with Dean, and I'll say, hey, I kind of have this vision. It's kind of like a hybrid of Pink and I don't know, kind of like a Fleetwood Mac vibe, but the BPM is the exact same as the chain. And I want it to sound kind of grainy, and I want my voice to be in a lower range. But these are kind of the lyrics that speak to me. And so she'll take all my notes and she'll lay down a guitar melody, just the very beginning of it for me. And then I'll go back and sing on it. and I'll say, okay, this is kind of what I'm thinking. And then we'll build a song around that.
Oh, so it's a very collaborative sort of experience.
Very collaborative. And there's also been times like here in Paris, I was listening to this rapper the other day and he was like doing his thing. And I was like, I kind of want to take that same beat or something similar and kind of sing rap on it and talk on it. And so I'm doing that now too.
So if you could classify your music in a genre, which I know you don't want to do, I know you want to break all sorts of boundaries, but how would you describe your music? It seems very eclectic.
Well, I think it's important that we all start where we came from. Mm-hmm. It's a really good starting point. Like the most authentic part of my soul, I'm from Texas. Country music is what I started listening to at the age of, as a newborn at 2 years old. Mm-hmm. So I think country music will always be such a huge part of me. And I think I've found my voice in country music. And I think it's allowed me to now start exploring other sectors and other genres of like what's interesting, what's not. But I would really love to collaborate on a worldly level. Like, how can we do country music in France? And how can we begin to really expand what that would look and feel like? You know, because they're doing country music and, you know, with rap now or hip hop, right?
Right.
In the States, but I'm like, okay, what if I'm really true to me, which is, you know, my partner is from France. I've got a lot of friends that live all over the world. How can I take country music and begin to explore there? So I would say very much like country pop, country rock. And now I'm kind of going into weird places. I don't know. I don't even know what it's called. I don't know. It's like Kelly genre. I don't even know.
Yeah, we don't need to put a label on it. I was just wondering what you considered yourself. Have you performed much in France?
So I've only done one show here, and it was so incredible because what I'm really learning is that music knows no boundaries. It is just, I don't think anybody in the room, I mean, I'm sure more than half the people can speak English, right? So they understood some of the lyrics, but it didn't even matter because it was more of a feeling. It was just a small room, full room, which I was so grateful for. But I was just like, wow, like some of these people have no idea what I'm saying, but they can hear me.
Right.
You know, they can hear what I'm saying. They don't know what I'm saying, but they can feel me. And that's what is really interesting to me is making music that's like, I don't know. It's just, the words are not really interesting anymore. It's more like how we're singing it and what, you know, how we're saying it with conviction and what it really means to us. So I'm really interested in making music now that like really touches my heart instead of trying to produce something with an outcome.
Well, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is what I think I started out doing. You're very performance driven as an actor, obviously. It's like very tit for tat, you know, like you audition, you get the part, you do the part comes out, everybody watches it. But music is so different. I mean, you know, look at Prince. He did thousands of songs he never released, but he did it just as self-expression. So,
mm-hmm. Yeah. And really, music is all about connecting with people, regardless of, you know, language barriers or anything. And so the more connected you are with your own music, the more you connect with other people.
That's right.
What do they think of country music, though? The sound of it?
Yeah, I think it was cool. I think people were definitely into it. It was like, you know, and the coolest part is it's a new sound here, right?
Yeah.
So as much as you feel like you're insecure or limited, you know, my friend who's she's like a French rapper here. And she came up to me afterward and she was like, dude, that was so cool because it's a new sound. You know, people aren't used to country music here. And I'm like, well, that's really interesting to me. Instead of trying to feel insecure like I don't fit in Nashville, it's like I get to create something new for myself here. And it's a new sound, which is really cool.
Yeah. And there's no real expectations there. It's whatever you make of it.
It's whatever you make of it. And I hope that when I go back to the States, I carry that forward because the truth is that wherever we are in the world, that needs to be what we lead with always. It doesn't matter where we are, who's listening, or what the outcome is, or what even like subjectively we're going for. It's like music is music, and you can be anywhere in the world, and anyone it just takes one person to resonate with your sound and resonate with your words. And to me, it's like super important moving forward just to like put myself out there in such a way that like there's no, I'm not worried about anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That takes a lot of bravery.
Oof. It's hard. It's really hard. It's it's really challenging. But I'm learning that the more I allow myself to be free and make mistakes and just show up for myself, there's a lot of power in that too. It's, I think that the thing about artistry, right? Like we all know as artists in whatever creative sector you're in, it's like the goal of being unique and yourself and authentic and putting yourself out there. Well, it tips this way, but then there's always way here. There's always a balance. There's always an equilibrium with like taking a chance and a risk and putting yourself out there, which is so beautiful and authentic. But there's always the way down here that a lot of people don't talk about. It's like, well, God, you just look like you're killing it. You're in Paris and everything's so great. And I'm like, yeah, but there's so many nights where I'm crying and I feel insecure because I'm in my 30s and I don't know what I'm doing with my life. And I'm trying to be brave and I'm trying to use my voice to show the world how to heal and to give people permission to do the same. But of course it's lonely and of course it's scary. And of course I have no idea what I'm doing, and there's days that I feel absolutely crazy, but that's how I know that I'm in the movement of being an artist, because it's like when you don't feel that crazy and that imbalance, then I think we're not doing our job,
Yeah, you're being a little stagnant.
Yeah.
Feeling a little uncomfortable is how you know you're moving forward.
That's right.
Yeah. So to the nitty gritty, because I love your philosophy on music and expression and human connection. I think that's what music's all about. But as far as your actual career, you have done such a great job, it seems, of planning things, of, you talked with your producer, you talked with friends that how have you shaped it? There are a lot of musicians that have great music, but don't know how to get out there. Do you have a team that helps you with publicity? What is it that you do to really let people know who you are and what your voice is?
Yeah, I think it's a amazing question. So I use a distribution company, 2 different ones.
Mm-hmm.
I think the distribution company is really important. I think a lot of people are like, well, I'm just going to upload it and do my thing. But on the front end of this distribution deal, I called the owner. He was like, why the hell is this girl calling me? Like, she's at what? And I was like, no, I need to know, like, before we do this, like, I need to know what your plan is. You need to know who I am. I need to know that there's a team that's going to be helping. If not, I'm going to go to another distribution company. And he was kind of like, well, nobody's ever really called me, like gotten a hold of me. And, this is the standard deal. And I'm like, well, I'm not a standard deal. So like, let's figure out, this is what I want. I want, I want as many streams as possible. I want a platform. I'm really big into producing and directing all my music videos because I work backwards, right? So when I write, a lot of the time it's very cinematic. So my plan is always to take a song that I do and then create this whole story that then we put up on YouTube, and people can really have a visual representation of who I am, mainly because I get to act in it, and that's my favorite. But I love telling stories. So it's a story within the story. And I'm like, no, look, like I want YouTube ads, and I want, somebody that can help me drive business towards that. So I was really hungry with that, like being on the business side of things. I think a lot of people are so focused on the song, but I'm like, no, how do we get, I need advertisements driving to my videos. Like, how do we get that? What does that look like? I need somebody helping with social media. I don't have a ton of money to do that, but what will that look like? I can post every day on my own, but I am going to need help with that. And I mean, the thing is, I remember, I've grown since then, and I've given myself more money to be able to do it. But in the beginning, I went on Fiverr. I made my own first album cover, the song that has the most streams to date. I made it for $20. The same guy still does my album covers because he's awesome. He's actually, he's He's ironically in Paris. I didn't even make that connection. He's here.
You found him on Fiverr?
Yeah, on Fiverr.
Really?
Another guy from Bangladesh that like has a whole team, and I paid him $30 a month, and he was driving traffic just to my page. I said, I don't want bots. I don't want fake followers. Don't do the unlike saying, because we all know it's all part of the game, but I don't want to do that. Just driving traffic to my page. So I made an album cover. I had traffic driven to my page for $50. I've just been scrappy, like I've been like totally scrappy. I paid someone like, I think, $80 to $100, depending upon how he performed, to pitch me to playlists. So I've just been like, and then you get on one editorial playlist, and then that's all you need, right? And then you're off to the races, and then Spotify kind of does the rest, and then algorithms. But I've been very entrepreneurial. Like my mindset has been I am an entrepreneur. This is my company. And it's one thing to like make the music, but it's another thing to go, okay, here's my image. This is how I want to be seen to the world. This is what I want to talk about. I had someone tell me that you should never talk about, like this whole like psychedelic journey you went on. You should never talk about it. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to do that, because that's like not my process. And this is part of my story, right?
Mm-hmm.
And my spirituality is a very big piece of my world and how I live, but I'm not going to be afraid to show myself in all areas of my life. So, that was something I had to take a chance on. But yeah, that was a choice. So I've just been, I don't know, I think it's, you have to definitely not think big picture when you're actually making the music. But I think once the music is made, you have to really think big picture and go, okay,
yeah,
how do I get in the pocket? What is my genre? I think also knowing, the small fan base that I started to get, it's like, how do I really win over their hearts and really get them engaged? So that was interesting. But to be honest with you, I don't think any of us really know what we're doing. It's I think we just do the best we can. I do believe that there's a lot of universal divine energy that's behind us, that's pushing us in the right direction if it's where we're supposed to be going. And so I would contribute a lot of where I'm at today, probably because of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's fantastic. It's great that you're making these connections. Again, it goes back to the connection thing. Your authenticity, I think, is what endears you to your fans. And I think a lot of music fans are wanting to know the artist behind the music. And so you being honest with them, I think, is a really good thing.
Yeah. And, maybe it can help someone too, because I know that I suffered, I think we all have in certain moments in our life, but, anxiety and depression and all of these things, right? There are ways to get around it and get through it and go through it and really process it. And of course, music has been such a huge part of that. But there's other things in my life that I want to continue to share that have really helped me as well. So
yeah, I love that. And you also are trying to encourage everyone to defy societal standards. You want to go into that a little bit? I think that's very intriguing. I want to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think my goal is just to be a living, breathing example of embodying what it means to be an outrageous woman pursuing her dreams. And what I mean by that is just giving myself permission to be free and to have the courage to pursue this and to like baby step it and to literally like just keep showing up for myself is what I think it means to defy the odds of society, right? To like go against the grain. Like I get messages all the time. Like, how are you doing it? Where do I start? How did you do it? And I'm like, I am literally just doing it every day. I'm showing up on the podcast. I'm getting in the studio. I'm claiming to the world that I'm an artist. I'm claiming that I'm a singer. I'm putting pen to paper and writing my thoughts. Because when we actualize it and when we say it out loud and when we begin to actually do it, we are it. And then when we are that, people understand that we are that, and then we do more of that, and then we are that. So I think it's just if we wait for the rules, or we wait for the prerequisites, or we wait for the qualifications, we wait until this happens, we wait until that happens. It's like you wake up sleepy and you're 65 or 90 and it's past, right? Actually, 65 is a very great age to start doing anything, because my mom is 67 and she's beginning to write books now and do painting and everything else. But the most important thing, I think, is just the day that I give myself permission to do it, and I'm holding myself accountable. I think it's being a living, breathing example of what is possible, which a lot of other women have done in the creative field. But I also just don't think, like, we grew up having to pick a lane. I don't know if you remember in school, it was like, oh, if you want to be a firefighter or a dentist or a doctor or a lawyer, you got to go to law school, and you got to, right. Which, again, I'm not saying don't go to school and get an education, but I just think at any point in our life when we decide to pick, I think it's absolutely acceptable and radical and cool to just claim it and to just say, you know what, I might not be qualified, but the fact that I'm here, I'm taking a seat at this table, so I am qualified. And I think that's how we defy the odds of, like, what is supposed to be. I think so many people are afraid, but, once I get to that table, I'm not going to be, good enough, or I don't know what I'm doing or whatever. But the truth is, everybody that's sitting at that table, I always think about being at the Grammys or the Oscars. It's like everybody that gets up to get that award, none of them go, well, I can't believe I'm here. Never really thought I was good enough. Whatever. They're like, I worked my ass off to get here. I knew I was good enough. I believed in myself. And no matter what happened to me, through every trial and tribulation, I got back up and I kept going. And I just think it's like, if you want a seat at any table, you just got to go sit down, and you just got to take it. And you can't wait on anybody to give you permission to sit, because it's not going to happen, And, yeah, I think that one particular night during the pandemic is what really changed the trajectory in my life, as far as, like, I have two choices here. I can either succumb to the fear in my mind, or I can push through and create a really epic life for myself.
Yeah. And now you're in Paris.
And now I'm in Paris. And then, making crazy music, which I don't even know if I'll ever release, but it just feels so good.
Well, yeah, that was my next question. What's your upcoming projects? What are you working on now?
So I still have a film in post that I've been waiting on for a good time now. So we'll see about that. That's still yet to come. I don't even know. I've got 3 songs that I finished in Nashville back in January that are getting mixed and mastered right now. I finished 3 songs in Miami that are super funky and cool. They're more like party, poppy songs, but super fun and different. And then I've got 6 that I'm doing in Paris. So by the end of the year, I'll have about 13 songs ready to go.
That's another album right there.
Yeah. So this year's just kind of, I think I'm going to drop a few as singles. But this year has really just been allowing myself, with no outcome, no set dates, just really to explore and be free. I left New York with 2 suitcases, and I've just been traveling and really, I don't know, I have this crazy vision of just being this, like, international kind of presence where I just work with a lot of different people all over the world and make music. So,
wow. I really admire your courage, and you just like, I'm doing this, and you do it. And you do it. How many of us sit there and think, oh, wouldn't it be great to do this? And you're like, well, then I'm going to go do it. And I love that about you. I have to say, it has been such a joy to talk with you and learn from you. Closing up, what's one piece of advice that you have for new musicians that we have not covered yet?
Oh,
because you've covered a lot already.
Yeah, I would just say, like, it sounds so cheesy, but really listen to your inner child, really get in touch with that inner voice, and really take care of that little presence, and just pay attention, because I think he or she will tell you everything that you need to know. And they really, even though we have to be the driver, right, and protecting ourselves and being adults, I think when we really start to listen to that inner child voice, I think it's like where all of our gifts really lie. And, you know, I'm definitely where I'm at today just from allowing and giving her permission to just like let her little like freak flag fly, you know?
Yeah.
And
I love it.
I think if you start there, I think you can't ever go wrong.
Yeah. Thank you. That's great
Yeah.
advice. Great advice.
Yeah.
It's been such a joy to meet you and chat with you. I just wish you all the best of luck. Please stay in touch. Let us know when you have new things coming out. I can't wait to hear this great European fusion of everything.
Yeah,
Country fusion. It's great. It's exciting. I love new sounds, so I'm so excited to hear what comes out of this year of adventure for you.
Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure speaking with you.